All right, here we go, everybody. We are back in action. We had our lunch. I hear, Rob, I hear you had a good lunch.
I had a good lunch. I love me a good kosher deli sandwich and hot pastrami and a matzo ball soup. It's a win-win.
Nice. I was up at Exit 33, had a nice lunch there with Steve and Dan Thomas, and we're ready to go for this afternoon. I actually went back up to the vendor floor for a little bit to check some things out. And if you're heading up to the vendor floor, check out Booth 500, and you get to see Rob's smiling face and his team could win a smart board I just read. Yes. What are some other things going on there?
So lots of stuff going on with 3D printing, some giveaways. We have partners with us. So the smart board is from Smart. We have merge cubes that we're giving away, merge cubes, which are really, really cool pieces of technology that a lot of people don't even know about yet. So if you want to see some cool stuff and have some great conversations, Booth 500 and 501.
All right. And we are cruising along. We want to welcome in our next guest, kicking off after lunch. Mr. Bryan, how are you today?
I'm doing great, guys. It's great to be with you.
Awesome. So for those who don't know you out there, talk a little bit about yourself, your work, things that are going on.
Cool. So for most of my career, I was a kind of bleeding edge science teacher, always getting boards, always doing cool things, which kind of gave me opportunities to jump into project-based learning and then STEM. And so now I am a STEM instructional coach kind of guy. And I care a lot about making a difference in how education plays out for the next generation of kids so that they're not locked in and bored, that they're engaged and get to do some authentic things that lead them to joy and fulfillment in education and in life.
Wow, that sounds pretty exciting. And now, in your role as a practitioner, how do you bring those things to life?
I think a lot of it is just getting, well, first of all, you got to model it, right? So finding something that is engaging, but not just engaging for its own sake, but actually leads somewhere. So I just did the playground session on microbits because I think they're a fantastic product. I don't, get anything from them, but they're so adaptable that I did a lesson with kindergartners and the kids jumping up and down to trigger the sensor that then gives them a random number. And then they're doing 10 frames and they're doing math with a partner. And so they're moving, they're seeing a little bit of technology, but it's short, right? 8 minutes and I'm out of there. But then they go all the way up to high school computer science and robotics. So they can do just about everything.
Yeah, microbits are very versatile. I was working with a group of students. A funny story though, because I was explaining to them, this is the kind of technology that you have inside your video game controller. They're little circuit boards, and they just couldn't grasp that. So I brought in one of my Xbox controllers, took it apart, showed it to them, and then I went out and bought a new Xbox.
It's awesome.
But they got it. When you make it real, and make it relatable, then it's not just I'm reading a worksheet, it's I'm learning a topic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So how's your Nice Skate experience been?
Great. I mean, I've been doing ice skate for many years and got into presenting 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. And so it's really an interesting shift. I know most of the educators out there will hopefully sense this, that there's a point at which you want to start giving back or you want to contribute. And for me, it was great to close my door and to make sure that I was doing what I thought was best for my students. And but now it's sort of like jumping into the role where I do miss the kids, but I know that I'm impacting more if I impact the teacher. And so that's kind of where my sessions led. I did a little bit one on brain science of play and then the playground. So they kind of fit really well together.
Nice. And you did have a session as well. I know you've already had it. It was on the first day.
Yeah.
Wired to create brain-aligned tools for engaging STEM projects. So how do you feel that went?
I think it went well. I've been nerding out over the past couple of years on really what happens in authentic learning in the brain, regardless of school, right? So we could all maybe agree that school and learning aren't always the same. And so if we learn just because we're alive, and we're going to do that as long as we're alive, how do we tap into that part that just naturally happens, right? And so I was covering the idea that we have to get kids to feel safe. And once they feel safe, that network of the brain that's constantly fight or flight alerting network turns off. And the best can do that by giving them tools where they're free to explore with whether it's Legos, it could be anything. And then once that network is down, they can orient and then they can regulate. And these kids that can't regulate their emotions, they don't have executive functioning skills, but we can blame them or we can do something about it. And so that means we shift back to the way the brain was created to play to learn. and we reintroduce some of that to make sure that they have those skills as they progress through life.
You must see that, Rob, in the work that you do with tech, because I know you go out and, in your role, that you're actively part of that learning process.
It's true. It's sometimes getting the educator and the students to see past the standardized testing and the data collection and bring back that humanity.
Mhm.
And if you cannot teach a kid how to do 2 + 2, he's going to find a calculator that'll help him. But if you don't teach a kid how to be a respectful, responsible human being, that's where problems happen in the future. So we got to get them young.
So, Bryan, I know that you put out a book in 2022, recalculating. How's that impact? Have you seen it in the schools, and kind of what has updated since you put that out?
Oh man, that's a tough question for what time we have left. So for me, that was my own journey through realizing that the way I was allowing education to happen and I was doing it myself were killing me, right? And not only was it it was good for students, but it wasn't sustainable for me, I guess is another way to put it. And so that was me. We've all been lost, if you remember the early days of GPS, right? Like it was just recalculating because you didn't follow directions. And I think that's the story for me. Like, I don't think we're following the directions of life in terms of learning. And so we have to recalculate back to the destination. And that was a personal journey for me, but every piece of that informs where I'm going forward. And so, yeah, the book that I'm working on for Matthew, plus this shameless plug here, is called Artificially Intelligent. And it's the story of how we, as educators, create kids that can check those standardized test boxes and they can graduate. But when it comes to the real life skill, that we're finding kids don't have resilience. They don't have executive functioning. And Gen Z is bouncing from job to job to job, and they don't know how to find fulfillment in life. And if we're not training kids for life, what are we doing, right? So that burnout piece, the next natural step for me was like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't just me. How do we change education? How do we do it for those kids? Because they're the ones who are going to run the nursing home I end up in someday, right? They're going to be your doctors. I mean, I just was talking to a colleague about hiring a former student as my CPA. Like, I better hope that kid cares about what matters to me, or else I'm going to be in trouble with the IRS and moving to another country.
There you go. So how many years have you been coming to Ice Skate?
Ooh, probably a little over 10.
Okay.
And I might have missed 1 or 2 years in the middle there, but I would say 2014 probably was my first Ice Skate, my first ISTE, and that's where I got the bug to realize that it wasn't just about affecting my classroom, it was bigger.
Any special moments? Anything you're like, oh, I remember this year?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it comes down to the cohort of people that you meet, yourself included. Tim Needles, who's on, I mean, Tim called me this time and said, hey, can you do a playground? And I love it. It's like, it is the most important or most fun thing to do. And presenting is its own animal, right? You get to maybe stand and deliver and interact. But when you stand at a table with somebody, you got that open door because you met someone in a session. I just mentioned to somebody about how we met in a session at Ice Skate 4 or 5 years ago. And it was just, you click with somebody because they have the same philosophy. And so it's those things you got to get out of your own region and explore and see that there are, I always said I was the lone weirdo, right? And until I realized, you come to a conference and you realize that it's all weirdos, and so because they're different, because these people have tried a different technology, they've failed at this and moved on, that you can learn. Where when you're in your own, district and you've been trying crazy tools and things, that you become almost stagnated if you don't get out and encounter different people. So there's a lot of those moments.
So one of the moments we always look for is kind of one of our very special questions. So I'm going to leave that up to Rob as he kind of winds us down and gets us closed out.
So I can almost feel your answer based on the conversation we've been having, but love to hear it in your own words. When you hear the term "stronger together," what comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say I can go back to what we just learned or what we just talked about, is that when I get with people who are different from me, then I see things that I don't normally see. And there's some courage in that, right? I just had lunch with a colleague and I said, be brutal, man. How did my session go? And it's like, you got to have people that care about you. Because he was like, you talk too much. And I'm like, okay, that is exactly what I said I wasn't going to do. But for me, that's comfortable. That's safe. And so that stronger together piece is getting somebody to say, hey, try this, because maybe it would be hard for you, but you're going to grow. Watch this person who's different from you, and what can you glean from them? Adam File's session was amazing. And I'm like, it was exactly what I needed to do. And so I learned just from that connection, So yeah, I would say that's it right there.
Awesome. And I think having that person or people in your life, I know, speaking of Adam, Carl Hooker, they've been two for me that through the years have given me some tough feedback, and it's helped me along the way. It was awesome. You were in the participant chair yesterday when I had a group of like 5 or 6 people trying some things for the first time, and we all grew, and even through last night, hearing some of the things that they said, both, excited, but like, oh, I would have tried it this way, or I had too much content. And Rob was his first time as well yesterday, and I think it's just learning and growing with each other. So, Bryan, those big things ahead for you. We're really excited to see what's coming next. You're going to sticking around for the rest of the day?
Absolutely. I'll be through the conference today and tomorrow.
Awesome. We'll look forward to connecting and continue to do the great work that you're doing. For those out there that are watching or listening, make sure to stay tuned. We have our next guest actually already here. Allison's going to be joining us in just about 2 minutes. So stay tuned. Continue to hear the great voices here at NYSCAPE. Bryan, Rob, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.